Hi, I'm Martyn Drake, and this is a Profit on Purpose interview with Mark Lever, Chief Executive of the National Autistic Society. Hi, Mark.
Indeed. Hello.
Nice of you to join us.
It's a great pleasure.
So, for people that aren't familiar with the National Autistic Society, do you just want to give us a very brief feel for its scale and what it does and why it exists?
Yeah, the National Autistic Society is the largest charity in the UK supporting autistic people and their families. And we do that in a number of ways. We run services, residential services for autistic adults, outreach programs. We've got 8 schools. We run information advice helplines, and we do a lot of policy and campaigning to change the legislative framework to support people with autism.
So in terms of the economic model of your organisation, is it largely donated funding or earned income, or how does it?
No, it's more based on contract income. So 90% of our income is generated from contracts from local authorities who place autistic adults in our residential services or autistic children in our schools. And the other 10% is fundraised income, which we use to fund our charitable activities like the helpline and advice programs.
And when we first spoke, probably at the start of 2013, I remember you were facing a number of challenges around income at that point in time, which I'm sure lots of other people in the sector are facing as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to just describe some of the challenges?
I think the challenge for us was that we had, as I say, a significant amount of income coming from local government contracts. And those contracts in those days generated sort of surpluses that we could invest into our charitable activities. So any money that we made in those areas we could use to fund the helplines, the programmes and our campaigning work. But obviously as local government funding has got tighter, there's less money there, so we have to grow our fundraised income if we want to continue delivering those services. And that was really the challenge. How do you fill that funding gap if we want to continue doing the work we were doing?
No, I remember the reason that we spoke. I wrote you a letter, didn't I?
Yeah.
I think I said, this is what I do for businesses. I've got 2 boys on the autistic spectrum. If I can ever be of any help, then just let me know.
Yeah.
And within a week, I think we were working together. So why did you choose to associate, to work with somebody who clearly had no background whatsoever in the charity sector?
A, because I'm not one to look a gift horse in the mouth. B, I think because having someone who's involved in that type of work that really understands the impact of autism makes a big difference. But I think perhaps the most important reason was we were about to embark on a review of our activities to date, and what we needed was a really constructive challenge. And whilst I fully appreciate the dynamics of the charity sector, the challenges that we face are quite complex, because I think if you look at what we're faced with, and what the charity sector generally is faced with, is unprecedented levels of need, unprecedented reduction in funding, and actually an environment that isn't particularly competitive. So we have an environment where competition actually doesn't drive quality, doesn't drive efficiency for those services, because nobody's going to pile into a marketplace where there's reduced funding and massive need. But that's what charities do. So I think to have somebody to challenge us to think differently about how we can generate quality, how we can generate efficiency, was something I was looking for. Not somebody who is perhaps used to a more traditional model where actually you just went to ask government for more money to do what you were going to do.
So bringing in somebody with purely a business background meant that you and I were having conversations around things like sales and profitability and relationship management, and all of those kind of very commercial type of topics. In your experience, how did that kind of language fit with the culture within the NAS and I guess within the sector more broadly?
The language isn't the problem. It's not about the language, it's about the principles behind it. So if we talk about profitability, actually what we mean is how do we generate enough income, enough surplus to actually fund those charitable activities that will not ordinarily be paid for. And when we talk about stakeholder management, actually it's really good to understand what the people you support need. It's really good to understand what your donors are looking for. So I think if you strip back the language and actually understand what the principles behind it are, that's what we need to focus on. And I think everyone in the charity sector recognises that we've got to look at the best ways to invest money that's been donated to us. I mean, we would be irresponsible if we chose to invest hard-earned income or hard fundraised income into things which weren't generating the best possible return. So I think the language isn't really the issue. It's making sure that people understand the underlying principles behind it, and that's what we focus on.
And what do you think that charities gain from taking a more business-like approach to the way that they think through these issues?
Survival. Unless charities are more business-like, so I'm not saying charities are going to be businesses, but unless charities are more business-like, they won't survive. So we clearly have to understand our customers, we clearly have to deliver the highest quality services, but importantly we have to understand what we're good at and what we're not good at. Because if we try and do everything, we end up being average, and that's not a great place to be. So I think one of the challenges for us, and we're still struggling with it, I mean we're not there by any stretch of the imagination, is identifying what we're really good at and doing that really well, and ditching the stuff that we don't think we're good at and that others can do better.
Yes, I think just building on that, one of the words that I hear an awful lot is diversification of income, and what you've done in terms of working out exactly what you're really good at and being excellent in those specific areas, I think challenges that notion of around diversifying funding streams. It's more about generating far more customers. Is that?
I think that's right. I mean, we talk about we're striving for excellence. I don't think we're excellent in many things at the moment. We're really trying to get there, and that's the challenge for the organisation. Everyone's committed to doing that. I think for us it's about having a number of income streams, but recognising those streams that are actually aligned to helping us achieve our mission. The challenge for many charities is that you can chase the money and it pulls you in a different direction. The trick for us is to be really clear about what we're trying to achieve, as in the mission, be really clear of the support that we need that is aligned to that, and make sure we've got the capability, the structures to actually support that. I think, you know, we've looked at all the activities we're involved in and said, actually, how can we fund that? You know, can we sell those services? Can we actually package them together, which would be attractive to a particular trust fund or an individual donor? Or can we package those services so that individuals might want to buy them? So it's actually looking at where we think we can get the funding to deliver those services that are actually clearly aligned to our mission, rather than just being pulled off in a direction just chasing money.
So your mission and your strategy is based around 4 specific areas, if I remember right.
Right. So the 4 elements of the strategy: social change, being a partner for life, supporting professionals, and striving for excellence in our services, are the 4 pillars of our strategy, and that's what we focus on.
And you mentioned about generating income on mission.
Yeah.
In terms of through activities that actually deliver your mission. Is it important that all of those areas contribute financially as well? Are they all there to generate income?
It would be impossible for them all to generate income. We're not exclusively saying we're only going to do the things which pay for themselves, because actually we would end up ditching quite a lot of services which are really valuable. So our helpline, for instance, which supports over 20,000 families a year, that wouldn't survive unless we had great support from corporate donors and we were able to generate income from other areas to support it.
You mentioned services to professionals. Tell me a little bit about that.
We know from talking to parents, from talking to autistic adults, that one of the biggest frustrations in their lives is visiting a GP, talking to a teacher, talking to a psychiatrist who doesn't understand autism and thinks that there is something else wrong, as they would say. We know that if we can provide training and conferences to support those professionals to better understand autism, that autistic adults and families with autistic children will get better support. And so we've created a whole layer of activity which supports that. So there's the typical conferences, face-to-face training, but we also have online webinars, and we've developed the largest platform, Network Autism, which supports professionals. We've currently got 7,000 professionals on there from over 100 countries.
And is that a charitable activity, or is that commercially viable?
It's a mixture. I mean, we have the conferences, the conference activity is generating income, our training activity generates income, but that income is all designed to support the other activities in the organisation. So by developing that as a more commercial area of activity, identifying people who are prepared to pay for it, it enables us to support other activity in other parts of the organisation.
So we've talked about some of the big business areas that you're involved in, but I know from some of our previous conversations you also do quite a lot of micro enterprise directly with some of the people that you support. Give us a couple of examples of those.
I think that part of our work is really important, because for most people, work defines who they are and gives them self-esteem. For many of the autistic adults that we support, having an unsupported job is unlikely. So what we're keen to do is to create enterprising activity where we can provide supported employment opportunities to many of the people that we support, so that they can feel a sense of worth, and so their self-esteem grows as they're involved in those activities that they want to be involved in. So we've established things like cafes. So we've got a cafe near the Lake District, which gives people an opportunity to get involved in, obviously, catering, waiting, cleaning activities in that area. We've got a small fudge making business. We've got somebody who prints t-shirts. We've got a garden shop and a mini garden centre. So there's a whole range of activities which are driven by the people we support and what they like doing, but are designed and supported so that they get the sense, people get a sense of self-esteem and value from being employed in those activities.
It's not essential that these services generate a profit, but if they can become self-sustaining, then you can scale them, you can move your funding somewhere else. Is that right?
Yeah. We don't expect these enterprises to make loads of money. That's not the point of it. However, it is important that they break even, or they maybe make a small surplus so that we can reinvest that money elsewhere. Because the most important thing is that these activities continue. The worst thing would be if we set something up in a blaze of glory and everyone was really excited about it and then had to close it 6 months later because the money wasn't there.
And how do you see this kind of thinking spreading in the future?
I think that most of my colleagues in the sector, when I talk to them, recognise that relying on government funding is no longer a sustainable option. I think that most of the people that I talk to think that relying on any surpluses from contracts to fund charitable activity isn't sustainable. And I think also colleagues I speak to think that some of the traditional fundraising streams aren't sustainable anymore. So a more blended approach, and one which involves identifying traded activity and more commercial activity, is actually more sustainable and actually more within our control to manage that if we can identify those opportunities. And I think that's the big challenge for the sector, is to develop a more entrepreneurial spirit. Because if you look at how entrepreneurs operate, they look at a challenging set of circumstances and then they identify an opportunity. Traditionally, what's happened is that some charities, ours included, have looked at a challenging set of circumstances and got the begging bowl out. What we have to do is to say funding's going down, demand's going up, there's more and more regulation, there's more and more challenges. Actually, what's the opportunity here, rather than just covering our heads and hoping it will go away. Good luck, and I hope it continues to grow for you. It's been brilliant having you on. Thank you very much, Martyn. It's a pleasure. Thank you.